online audience.
I rise in support of House Bill 1075 to eliminate the sales tax on groceries. As you know, I am Governor Kristi Noem. I'm the 33rd governor of South Dakota. I'm also a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, and I have been a business person and a farmer and rancher my entire life. As most of you may know, but maybe need to be reminded, I've spent my entire life in public office focused on tax policy. When I was here in the legislature, I worked on bills to reform our property tax system here in the state so it'd be more equitable and treat our property tax owners fairly, and we had accurate assessments going forward. When I went to Congress and represented all of you in Washington, D.C., I served on the Ways and Means Committee, which most people would refer to as a committee that has the most ways it can be mean, because it has jurisdiction over all taxes, healthcare policy, trade agreements. But there I made taxes and tax reform my priority. I focused for 2.5 years on doing a tax reform bill that we got across the finish line with our president that put $2,400 back in the pockets of every South Dakota family. I was proud of the fact that that tax reform bill brought relief to residents of South Dakota. A lot of people have asked me why I've chosen to bring a bill to all of you that would repeal the sales tax on grocery store items. That's because, again, this policy focuses specifically on residents. I know that Representative Mills said earlier that the tax cut on reducing the rate would help residents. It also helps every tourist that comes to the state. People that come to the state and spend their money, reducing the rate helps them, but it isn't focused specifically on residents, which is where my focus is. As governor, it's my job to get up every single day to look at the hardworking people who live here, who go and buy groceries, and see what I can do to help them keep more dollars in their pocket. In fact, we had a president, President Coolidge, at one time, said that the ability to take income or property from a person is just basically dictating how much and how long that person has to work for the government. Today, I'm going to ask if you would give the people of South Dakota less time that they have to work for the government and allow them to get a tax cut that will benefit them and their families. The other reason I've landed on this policy today that I brought to all of you to repeal the sales tax on groceries is because it helps everybody of all income levels. It doesn't pick winners and losers. It helps senior citizens on fixed incomes. It also helps single moms who may rent an apartment and have a tough time feeding their kids with the rising food costs that we have. In the last 2 years, we've seen food costs go up by 19%. It's been significant to see the inflation that has hit the people of this country. But South Dakota is thriving. We are in our strongest financial and economical position that we've been in our history. And that's because of sound fiscal policy, because of us taking our challenges that we faced the last few years and turning them into opportunities. The year before I was governor, our reserves in our account was $176.4 million is what we had in reserves. This last year, we had $422.6 million in reserves. Look at how much we have done to secure the state financially in the future. We have $400 million almost in excess surplus before we even approach a tax cut this year. That's a great position for South Dakota to be in, and it's there because we've made wise decisions. We have seen our reserves go up, we've seen our revenues go up, we've seen incomes in this state go up faster than anywhere else in the country. Our unemployment has been at historic lows because people are working, because we were the only state in the country that turned down elevated unemployment benefits, and we've continued to see our housing development lead the nation because people want to live here. They want to live here and they want to be free. I would ask today that you would support this tax cut. It's a $102 million tax cut for the people of South Dakota because it is focused on them. I had several people over the last several weeks ask me, Governor, why are you asking for this sales tax cut? Why do you want to focus on groceries? And do people even want that? I'm not hearing about it from my districts. So we went out and conducted recent polling, which I think most of you have probably seen over the weekend. I wrote an op-ed on it also talking about why this policy is the right tax cut for the right time for the people of South Dakota. We had over 75% of the people of this state that say, out of the 3 tax proposals you have in front of you today, they want the sales tax on groceries repealed. Overwhelming support in this state for people to get relief because they recognize that it helps people of all income levels. It helps the residents who live here and get up and go to work every single day. And because food costs are so escalating in this environment that they need relief. to make sure that they can make their budgets work every single week. In fact, out of those people that were polled, they were 81% more likely to support this tax cut when they learned that it helped people who were on fixed incomes. When they were asked if they recognized that this would help senior citizens who only get by on Social Security, they were much more likely, out of the 3 proposals in front of you today, to support repealing the sales tax on grocery items. Another 63% of them supported this proposal over all the others when they found out that we're one of only 7 states that still tax our groceries. We're in the minority here. And in fact, I think if you're going to look responsibly at the future, you'll recognize that in 2 years, you're going to have a ballot measure that will be on the ballot that the voters will decide. With this kind of support, it's going to pass. So if you pick a different tax cut to do this year of $104 million or whatever it is today now that you've been able to gather support for, you will be back here in 2 years trying to figure out how to do another $102 million tax cut. And you as Republicans and Democrats and people who represent this state need to look responsibly towards the future and know that you can do that with confidence and still fund our priorities. That ballot measure also is written in a different way than what the bill is that I brought to you today with the senators and the representatives, in the fact that we don't know if that ballot measure will necessarily comply with streamlined sales tax requirements. It's also written in a questionable manner that it's not sure if that ballot measure passes in 2 years, that it will allow our cities to be able to continue their city sales tax. The bill that you have in front of you right now allows those cities to collect their sales tax on groceries if they'd like to. It complies with streamlined sales tax. It benefits the residents who live here, and it is responsible looking towards the future, knowing that we can continue to address education and providers, that we can continue to fund our responsibilities and go after opportunities, but we also can make sure that we're representing the taxpayers. I've been in this Capitol for many years now, and I've seen every year as the debate goes on and on with lobbyists in the hallways, lobbyists who want education policy and funding, lobbyists who are arguing over what special project they should fund this year, what we should do for different needs that the state has. It's about time someone shows up for the taxpayer. That someone in this building recognizes that the only reason that we're in this building is because people in this state work hard and they're responsible and they plan for the future. It was interesting to me to see some of the proponents on the previous measure here that said that when I brought this bill and filed it at the beginning of this session, that it was irresponsible, that we didn't know if it was going to be sustainable. At $102 million ongoing, they sat here and said that it was a tax cut we just didn't know if we could maintain in the future. Yet, here they are just a couple of weeks later sitting here saying that going and lowering the rate is sustainable. The exact same dollar amount of ongoing commitment. I just ask you today to be honest with yourself. Let's have an honest debate and discussion about what is the best tax policy. For me, when I get up in the morning, the best policy is to always focus on the people who live here, the people who make this state run, to keep our perspective here on the ground, not in the noise that's discussed outside of people who get up and make our economy run. That's the families here. We should not be about picking winners and losers. We should not be about deciding tourists and people who visit our state should be prioritized over the people that get up and have their jobs here and raise their kids here. We should not be deciding how people spend their tax dollars. We should give them the freedom to use personal responsibility to keep more dollars in their pocket every week and decide how they want to spend it to benefit their families. I'm asking for your support on this bill today. I'd like you to send it to the House floor to continue the debate on this policy. It's the right thing for the state of South Dakota. It's good debate overwhelmingly. The public supports this tax cut over any others, and if you don't deal with this tax cut today, you definitely will be back here dealing with it in 2 years, and you will have to come back then and fix it because of the way that it's drafted, and it'll be on the ballot. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back my time, and thank you for giving me the privilege of speaking with all of you today.
Thank you, Governor Noem.